From the very beginning of human communication, information has been controlled, shaped, and often manipulated to serve a higher purpose. But what happens when those who control the flow of information decide to alter its course? How has the media, from ancient times to the digital age, been manipulated to influence public opinion, politics, and even entire nations? This is the story of how news has been shaped behind the scenes. Today, we'll explore the hidden forces that have shaped the news we receive and the often invisible hands behind the headlines. From the early days of printed news to the rise of social media, the manipulation of information is a story of power, control, and influence. The roots of media manipulation can be traced all the way back to the invention of the printing press in the 15th century. Before then, information was a luxury reserved for the elites, clergy, kings, and the aristocracy. But with the printing press, news became accessible to the masses. The rise of printed newspapers in the 17th century marked the beginning of widespread media manipulation. The elite quickly realized that controlling the flow of information could influence public opinion and political outcomes. Early newspaper editors used their platforms not only to report but to sway public sentiment, often advancing the interests of powerful individuals or political factions. In England, the government began regulating the press, granting licenses to printers who could be trusted to publish content that aligned with the Crown's interests. The idea of spin, shaping stories to fit a particular narrative, was born. As the media landscape evolved, so did the techniques of manipulation. By the late 19th century, the term yellow journalism emerged in the United States, a form of reporting that emphasized sensationalism, exaggeration, and scandal to attract readers. Newspaper moguls like William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer famously used their publications to influence public opinion, especially during times of war. The Spanish-American War in 1898 serves as a prime example of yellow journalism at its peak. Through exaggerated and often fabricated stories, Hearst and Pulitzer pushed the U.S. government towards military action, manipulating public sentiment to support the war. This period marked the beginning of media's power to shape not just public opinion, but entire national policies, with the news as a tool of political and corporate. As the 20th century rolled in, radio and television transformed the media landscape. Broadcast media became the primary source of information for the masses, and with it, the opportunity for manipulation grew exponentially. In the United States, government agencies like the FCC began to regulate the airwaves, giving the government an unprecedented level of control over the media. At the same time, state-sponsored propaganda efforts gained prominence. During World War II, both the Allies and the Axis powers used radio broadcasts and film to promote propaganda and sway public opinion. Meanwhile, media companies consolidated, and a few powerful conglomerates began to dominate the broadcast industry, making it easier for political and corporate interests to shape the content being aired. With limited channels, the ability to control what people saw and heard became even more critical. Power. As television networks grew in the post-war era, media conglomerates emerged as key players, consolidating news outlets, radio stations, and film studios under one roof. By the 1980s, a few multinational corporations controlled most of the media landscape, and with this power came the ability to manipulate the narrative. Corporate influence on the media reached new heights. Advertisers, through their economic power, began shaping content to align with their interests. From product placement in movies to controlled political messaging in news broadcasts, media outlets became increasingly biased towards corporate agendas. But even more insidious were the growing ties between media executives and political elites. Corporate-owned news outlets were now positioned to sway public opinion in favor of the political candidates and policies that aligned with the interests of those same powerful corporations. The Iraq War in 2003 is one example of how corporate media manipulation played a role in shaping public opinion. News outlets across the globe, many owned by a handful of corporations, pushed a narrative of weapons of mass destruction and the necessity of intervention, despite evidence to the contrary. As the digital age emerged, so too did a new form of media manipulation, one that operated in real time, on an unprecedented scale. The advent of the internet and social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube revolutionized the way we consume news. While these platforms promised democratization of information, they also introduced a new era of manipulation. Algorithms designed to maximize engagement began showing users content that fit their preferences, reinforcing existing beliefs and polarizing opinions. The use of bots, fake accounts, and targeted political ads became a common tool for those looking to sway public opinion. The 2016 U.S. presidential election brought to light how foreign actors and political campaigns used social media to influence voters and spread misinformation. But the manipulation didn't stop there. Media outlets themselves adapted to the digital era by sensationalizing headlines and tailoring stories to attract clicks and generate ad revenue. The concept of fake news, a term coined to describe misleading or false information designed to manipulate public opinion, became a serious issue. The true power of media manipulation lies in its ability to shape the narratives that define our society. Whether through censorship, misinformation, or biased reporting, controlling the narrative is the ultimate form of power. The media doesn't just report the news, it creates it. By choosing which stories to cover, how to cover them, and what information to include or leave out, media outlets decide what we see as important. Through this process, they shape public perception and influence everything from political elections to social movements. One of the most powerful examples of media shaping a national narrative occurred in 2001, with the September 11th attacks. The media, in partnership with the government, helped build a narrative of fear, patriotism, and the need for a war on terror. This narrative justified actions such as the invasion of Iraq and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security. The media's ability to construct and control these narratives is a form of soft power that can have far-reaching effects on global politics, economics, and society. As we've seen, the manipulation of media is an age-old tactic used by governments, corporations, and individuals to control the flow of information. From early print newspapers to today's social media platforms, the battle for control over what we see, hear, and believe is far from over. In the future, as new technologies like artificial intelligence and deepfake videos emerge, the potential for media manipulation will only increase. We may be entering a world where the line between fact and fiction becomes ever more blurred, and where the manipulation of information becomes an even more powerful weapon. But with greater awareness and a more informed public, the hope is that we can begin to push back against this manipulation, reclaiming our right to unbiased, truthful news. The media has always been a powerful tool for shaping the world we live in, and the battle for that control will define the future of global society. Thank you for watching the entire history of media manipulation. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth documentaries. And be sure to share this with others so we can all stay informed in the face of manipulation. Until next time, stay curious.